As a total layperson, I don't really know what artificial intelligence even really is made up of, other than ChatGPT and what I see on social media.
The first thing that kind of comes to mind is just like the Terminator movies.
In a way, we've always been interacting with some sort of artificial intelligence. It's just much more in our face right now.
What scares me about AI is that the technology seems to be advancing so quickly.
One day we weren't talking about it, and then the next day it wasn't just that we were talking about it, it was there for us to use without really even understanding it.
AI is happening. It's going to happen.
The question I would have for anyone who has power over the development is, how are we going to make this work for us?
I don't know what the agenda is with the people who's even creating AI. To me, it's like, what is really the point? Why do we need AI?
I've been living on this planet for 7 decades. I've seen a lot of things change. But about a year ago, I saw the first change I didn't fully comprehend. It was a demonstration of the capabilities of artificial intelligence, and I was bedazzled, fascinated, curious, and also concerned. But there's no doubt, it is here. Artificial intelligence is here, and life for all of us is about to be very different. Over the next hour, we're going to talk about what is coming with a brilliant group of people. They have different backgrounds and opinions about the kind of future racing toward us, but they all agree the stakes are too high for anyone to sit this out. Now, if you're worried this is going to be too technical, I promise it is easier than you think. The notion of a computer that works like the human brain has been around since the 1950s. The first chatbot arrived in 1966, but computers at the time weren't powerful enough to really engage. Things started changing about 20 years ago with advances in the way computers learn and whole galaxies of our internet data to learn from. Most recently, a group of computer scientists taught machines how to find and process words more easily so they can understand how we naturally communicate. That new discovery is powered by these computer chips called GPUs. Combine smarter programming with more powerful chips and you get AI products like ChatGPT, which can do many of the things a human can do, and some so far beyond our capabilities that it can seem like reality itself is warping. Sam Altman is the co-founder of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. I promised everybody watching that this was not going to be so technical that they wouldn't understand it.
We will do it.
Well, you will do it.
All right.
Okay. What is artificial intelligence?
It's really the next chapter of computing. We have figured out how to make computers smarter, to understand more, to be able to be more intuitive and more useful.
Can you tell us in basic terms how ChatGPT works?
You know, at the most basic level, we are showing the system 1,000 words in a sequence and asking it to predict what word comes next, and doing it again and again and again.
So we've seen this on our phones where it predicts, what the next word's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But to do that as well as possible, think how much you have to understand about each word that comes before and the relationships.
And every word.
Yes. And by teaching the model to look at a bunch of text and predict what word comes next, and doing this at incredible scale again and again, the system learns to predict, and then in there it learns the underlying concepts.
So that's what's going on behind the screen.
Yes.
How fast is this moving?
Well, 4 years ago, most of the world, if they thought about AI, thought about self-driving cars or some other thing or whatever. It was only 2022 was the first time people said, okay, this ChatGPT thing, like this is, computer talks to me now, that's new. And then since then, if you look at how much better it's gotten, it's been a pretty steep rate of improvement.
Just take me to 2035.
I think it's hard to say where all this can go without sounding like a crazy person.
Go ahead,
I
humor
really
me.
believe the technology is going to be that powerful. I hope that in 10 years, all of us, we are limited by what we can imagine. We have this AI that can help us figure out anything. We have abundant energy that can help us reconfigure stuff in the world. And if you want to go build a beautiful house, you can dream with the AI, you can figure out, oh, I want it to look like this, or do you have any other ideas, and architect this amazing thing. And then can you invent some robots that can actually build this house that we just imagined together.
So the machine then just becomes a part of your family, the way the phone is a part of our lives now.
It becomes a tool for you to do whatever you want for your family.
Do you think it's moving too fast?
My current belief is no, but I could imagine things that would change that quickly, and I would say, okay, this is moving too fast.
Like what? What would change that?
If we made an AI system that was better at doing AI research than all of OpenAI, and you could push a button and just say, improve really fast. That's an example of something I think would be moving too fast.
If we're talking about AI benefiting everyone, the industry is dominated by a lot of people who look like you, male and white, and very few who look like me.
Yeah.
Are there any thoughts about how to address that?
Yeah. Obviously, we want everybody to see themselves in our products. We also want the industry workforce to be much more diverse than it is. And there's slower than we'd like progress, but there is progress there. The most important thing that will happen here is everyone in the world will be able to create at a level that is still hard for us to imagine. This is gonna be an enabler of human ability to create, to flourish, to make new things, to create new companies and services like we've never seen. And we want everybody to get to do that, not just the white dudes.
Yeah. What keeps you up at night?
The rate of change in the world, in the economy from this, we haven't seen it yet. And just because we haven't seen that yet doesn't mean we can get complacent. Let's say we can make the technology super safe. We can't kind of do anything about the rate of diffusion through the economy. Like, people want more and better, and there's sort of some strong forces at play here.
If you were in charge of regulations, what kinds of regulations, what kinds of boundaries, what kinds of restrictions do you believe should be put in place?
A partnership between the companies developing this technology and governments is really important. One of the first things to do, and this is now happening, is to get the governments to start figuring out how to do safety testing of these systems, like we do for aircraft or new medicines or things like that. And then I think from there, if we can get good at that now, we'll have an easier time figuring out exactly what the regulatory framework is later.
Who do you speak with in the federal government?
We speak with a lot of people in the executive branch, and then dozens of people fairly regularly in Congress. There's a new AI Safety Institute in the US that we work with. I personally probably have some conversation with someone in the government every few days.
Every few days?
Yeah.
And what are y'all talking about?
What the US needs to do to lead here, how we're going to build enough data centers, how we're going to deal with chips and where those chips are produced, and make sure that geopolitically we have a good strategy there, how to think about safety for AI and how the government should test it, how to think about collaboration with other governments, what the economic impact of this is going to look like, how the government should be using this, all that.
The bottom line for, I think, most people is whether or not you can trust the people who are in charge. And I know you went through a phase where your own board said, we don't trust you. And then you got yourself another board. How do we know we can trust you?
So the bar on this is clearly extremely high. The best thing that we can do is to put this technology in the hands of people, talk about what it is capable of, what it's not, what we think is going to come, what we think might come, give our best advice about how society should decide to use this, say when we think it's important to not release something, which we also might get wrong, and build up that trust over time. But it is clear that this is going to be a very impactful technology, and I think a lot of scrutiny is thus super warranted.
I actually saw a headline that said you were the most powerful and perhaps most dangerous man on the planet. And I'm wondering how that sits with you.
It's definitely strange to hear you say that. I don't feel like the most powerful person or anything even close to that. Like I feel the opportunity, responsibility in a positive way to get to nudge this in a direction that I think can be really good for people. Mm-hmm. And that's like a serious, exciting, somewhat nerve-wracking thing. But it's something that I feel very deeply, and I realize I will never get to touch anything this important again.
Just what we've seen thus far of people with nefarious ideas misusing it causes me a lot of concern. And yet when I sit with you, you're so calm, you're so relatable, it seems like everything's okay. Is that how you really feel?
I don't want to give a false sense of security here. I'm tremendously excited for the good. I think the good will be incredible, but there will be bad too. And we'll mitigate as much as we can, we, the whole field. But this technology will be misused like every other technology before it. And we need to be clear-eyed about that, even though I'm so convinced that the upside will be so tremendous. And I think we're all so excited about it. We do have to be responsible for the whole package.
So I use artificial intelligence on a day-to-day basis. Most recently, actually, is my kids love playing around with image generation. My kids have had a great time drawing dinosaurs into random pictures.
I use like the simplified versions of AI, like on TikTok. You know how like when you do like the filters and you can see how you looked in the 1930s and they'll like change your picture from now to like, you know, an AI version of yourself.
I work as the Muslim chaplain at Rutgers University. I'll use it when I'm writing a sermon. I will never use the actual end product, but it's something to think about. And oftentimes when I've done that, that's what scares me.
I was a little bit apprehensive even about using it because there was so much being said about how it will basically eat you alive if you're not careful. And then I decided to talk to it and interview it. And it just spit out the answer so quickly. It was just stunning.
So, Marquez Brownlee, you have 20 million subscribers who all rely on you for all things technical. And this is a moment we're having. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, look, I've been in the tech world a while.
Yeah.
And a big part of being in this world is trying to figure out when this new thing is a big deal or not. I can say confidently it does feel like a big deal.
I think it's a very big deal.
Yeah. I want to show you what an AI-generated video 1 year ago looked like.
Okay.
And it's this. This is The Rock eating rocks.
Okay.
It's kind of a meme. It's a pretty funny video. It's obviously not a real video.
Obviously.
The AI-generated
we can tell that
video
that's
would
not
look
The
like
Rock
that.
eating rocks.
No, you can tell that.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you say, okay, that's a pretty ridiculous looking video.
Yeah.
This was 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Right? Now, this is what AI-generated videos look like.
What do you mean?
This is not a real person, not a real scene, no real cameras were used. This is completely generated by an AI-generated video tool. Now, you can still kind of look at pieces of this and tell something's not quite right.
No, I can't.
But that looks like a video. Here's another one. This one's a little more interesting. It's a handheld cinematic shot of a child on a beach holding an ice cream cone.
That's what you asked for. That's what you typed in.
That's what I typed in.
I'm assuming that AI had this stored somewhere, the picture of the child.
AI has millions of photos and videos of millions of children stored that it's trained on.
Okay, are they real children? Is this a real child?
It's not a real child, but it looks like one because it's trained on a ton of real children.
Is that real ice cream?
It sure looks like it. And this is, again, like if you pay super careful attention to the physics, then maybe you could tell it's not real.
So how are we supposed to know? How are we even supposed to know what is real and what isn't?
That's one of the biggest challenges right now, is because there aren't really any rules to it. So everyone who makes tools like this kind of is coming up with their own rules on the fly. Oh, I'll add a watermark to the corner, or I'll add some metadata to the file. So if someone downloads it, then they can tell.
How are we supposed to know where to look for a watermark?
It's a couple layers deep. So the point is there isn't really any good set of rules yet.
I know this has happened to you, it's happened to me, is to have people take an image of you, put words into your mouth that you didn't say, you're selling things you don't even know you're selling. I mean, I can't even keep up with all the things.
What I'm about to show you actually is a voice generator.
Yeah.
This is actually a real one right now that's trained on my last video.
Yes.
And you can ask it to say whatever you want, and it will sound just like me. Is there anything you'd like it to say?
I'd like to say Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled
peppers.
Let's see if he can do it.
Okay.
Generate speech.
To the untrained ear, this sounds basically exactly like a recording of my voice.
Yeah, it does.
And even to the trained ear, it's pretty convincing.
Yeah.
Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers.
Oh my God. Oh
so,
my.
In a matter of seconds, this tool is generating really high quality recording level
This is
fake
not
voice.
good. This isn't good.
So that's what I mean.
I can say all of this is really fascinating, but it leaves me a little bit more concerned. You don't seem to be as concerned.
I'll say I've seen this story before. Cars in general went through this. Smartphones, of course, went through this. Computers went through this. The internet went through this, where at their very formative years, they're really, really confusing and potentially amazing, but potentially horrible. And eventually, you know, humans sort themselves out to lay the rules down in a way that we can actually trust that will be better than it is bad. So I've seen the story before, and I'm hoping it plays out the way it's played out before.
Thank you.
No problem.
Next, we have Tristan and Asa, who are here to talk about the incredible speed in which this is happening.
It's moving really fast. We had experience with another technology that was introduced a little bit recklessly, and that was social media. And we're here because we don't want that to happen again with AI.
What was your experience?
I made infinite scroll. You know, that thing where you scroll and the phone just keeps loading more? I invented it before social media, and I invented it to make people more efficient. And it's now used to waste over 500,000 human lifetimes every single month. Addiction, doom scrolling, polarization, these are all consequences. And what I learned the hard way is that my good intentions as an inventor just wasn't enough.
And AI is moving way faster and is way more powerful in its impact on society than social media.
I thought Marquez's example actually caused me to have an aha when he was talking about all technology has gone through a similar phase where people question whether or not it was good or bad. So you say what to that?
It took time. It took decades to go from the invention of the car to adding seatbelts and driver's licenses and speed limits.
Yeah, speed.
That's right.
We had to figure it out.
Yeah.
So the problem with the AI is that we don't get that time.
So explain to me why AI is now moving so fast.
In 2017, there was a huge breakthrough at Google, and researchers there discovered a way that AI could start to learn a kind of universal language where it could speak the language of anything. And then suddenly the same lines of code could learn the language of DNA and learn how to make drugs, could learn the language of images, and could learn to do all those things that Marquez was showing. And so the rate of innovation went through the roof. And of course, once AI can do anything, people start to use it to do everything.
That's what's so confusing about AI, is it's going to give us all these benefits at the same time that it's undermining the foundations that we depend on. And you can't separate the promise from the peril. So I think instead of getting caught up in the question, is AI going to be good or is it going to be bad? It's about, is it happening at a pace that our society can respond appropriately?
But guys, it's here. That's why I started this program by saying it is here. So the argument isn't whether or not it's going to continue or whether the speed's going to continue, because it is already here.
And some of it's here, but even more powerful forms of AI are coming.
Yes.
OpenAI's stated goal is to be able to build systems of AI that are even smarter than humans, because there's trillions of dollars to be made on the other side. And so now is the time for us to say, what are the choices that we want to make about how this technology comes out?
What do you want to see happen now?
OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, they need to be held accountable for the harms that they would create so that they're all incentivized to pull back and go at the pace that they can help society be prepared and not be overwhelmed.
And who is holding them accountable?
We need laws.
We were scammed by AI. It was one of the scariest things I've ever been through. I received a phone call, and it was a local number, so I answered my phone. It was my daughter on the line. I mean, she was so upset, like she was crying, and she said, "Mama, I've been in a terrible accident, and I am so, so sorry." And a man gets on the phone, and he says, "Is this Chasten's mother?" She interrupted a drug deal that I was doing, and I lost $900 because of her. So I want my $900 back, or I'm gonna kill her. So I'm driving like 100 miles per hour down the interstate, and just as I got ready to get off the interstate, a text come in, and it was my daughter. And she says, "Mom, what is going on? I'm at the doctor's office."
My immediate reaction was, how the heck did they get my voice? How did they know I called my mom Mama?
I'll tell you what I learned from it. I will not ever take another phone call unless they're in my contact list.
FBI Director Christopher Wray is here, and we want to talk about threats from AI and other aspects of law and order. Do you remember the first time that someone showed you evidence of AI being used to commit a crime, and what was your reaction?
So it's funny you ask. I've been hearing about AI, for a long time, even before I became FBI director. But one of the first memories I have of dealing with it in this job was I was in a conference room, and a bunch of our folks got together to show me how AI-enhanced deep fakes can be created. And they had created a video of me saying things I had never said before and would never say. And I was staring at this video of myself, and I found it incredibly convincing. And believe me, it caught my attention. I kept thinking, wait, that's not me. I never said that. What is this,
Yeah.
Right now, AI is most useful in taking what I would call JV criminals and making them varsity.
How so?
And that's a problem.
How so?
For sure. We had a case not that long ago with a child psychiatrist in North Carolina who took images that he was able to get online and then manipulate them using AI to make them into child pornography. One of the things that made this particular example so egregious and horrifying is that the child psychiatrist took photos from decades earlier, from the first day of school, a school dance, that kind of thing, and essentially was able to manipulate those images to show them naked.
Wow.
There's so much out there now on social media and on the internet, well-intentioned things that people post about their lives, but in the wrong hands, enhanced by AI, people are vulnerable.
So you said more and more types of crimes.
So that would be one. Another one is something called sextortion, which we're seeing more and more often. Somebody posing as a peer targets a teenager, typically. More and more, it's young boys. So you're a teenage boy, you get a reach out from someone who claims to be a friend of a friend. She sends compromising pictures of herself and invites you to send pictures back. Except it's not a girl. Those images are enhanced. And in fact, it's some guy behind a keyboard in Nigeria. And then once they have the images, they threaten to blackmail the kid and say, if you don't pay up, we're going to share these images, we'll ruin your life. Unfortunately, this has real-world consequences. There have been at least 20 teenagers who committed suicide in these situations. And it's just heartbreaking.
Do you think we have the laws or regulations in place now to keep Americans safe from all that's coming, all the AI threats?
I would probably leave legislating to the legislators, but what I will tell you from an FBI director's perspective is that this is a type of technology that we see manifesting itself in more and more situations, more and more types of crimes, more and more types of threats. And there's a degree to which overall our laws haven't kept pace with the technology.
Does that frustrate you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. What I worry about is the day which is coming. It's not here yet, but it's coming faster than we would like, where those elite bad guys will find AI sophisticated enough to take their game to a whole nother level.
And the elite bad guys are doing what?
So the elite bad guys are the ones, for example, conducting the most sophisticated cyber intrusions. To me, no country represents a broader, more severe, more comprehensive threat to American innovation, American ideas, to our economic security, and ultimately our national security than the Chinese government. China has a bigger hacking program already than that of every major nation combined, and has stolen more of Americans' personal and corporate data than every nation, big or small, combined. The scale of the threat is significant. If you took the FBI's program and just said, forget Russia, forget Iran, just do nothing but China, the Chinese government's hacking program, they would outnumber us 50-1.
Does that mean the race that we all feel that we're in now, the race to be first, to be better, is to our advantage?
I do think we need to win the race. I think we are ahead in the race. But I would also say that we shouldn't, in the course of trying to win the race, disregard the importance of building in safeguards and controls and that sort of thing to help protect abuse. So speed, yes. Recklessness, no.
We've got an election coming. Do you think this election cycle will be compromised by disinformation?
I fully expect to see disinformation by foreign adversaries. We are finding all too often that something on social media that looks like Bill from Topeka or Mary from Dayton is actually, some Russian or Chinese intelligence officer out on the outskirts of Beijing or Moscow.
What should we be on the lookout for?
All Americans should try to be, more discerning consumers of information. It is incumbent on everyone in America to bring an intensified sense of focus and caution to the use of AI and how AI can be used by bad guys against all of us, but not to panic. I don't think this is a time for panic.
I fear that AI is going to take a lot of people's jobs.
I like making analogies of the Industrial Revolution. We found other places to specialize.
I have a robot in my pharmacy that fills drugs all day long for me. I did not like it when it first got there, but I couldn't imagine being without it now.
I hope that AI will be able to change health care in a way that you can diagnose so that that information would go from the doctor to the patient in a more efficient manner.
I think that made me shift to nursing school because basically I'm always going to be needed. If I'm trying to future-proof myself, am I going to be successful is a real question.
So Bill Gates, you've been on this tech rocket ship for quite some time. In the 70s and 80s, and even before, you were bringing us computers. And then in the 90s, we had the internet. And now, I'm just wondering how you think this AI moment stacks up to where we've been, to where we are right now?
AI is going to have more impact than even the personal computer, the phone, the internet. In fact, it builds on those things in this phenomenal way. But this is the biggest technical advance in my lifetime.
What does the world look like if we get the best of AI?
In 10 years, I'd say education and healthcare will have changed dramatically. So in medicine, there's the research part. The speed of scientific innovation across all diseases, even the neglected ones like malaria and HIV, that will be accelerated. But perhaps even more profoundly, whenever you're confused about medical things. I mean, even in the US, your bill is confusing, your MRI report is confusing. That can be dramatically improved. You almost can think of the AI as like a third person sitting in, doing the transcript, suggesting the prescription, and then you have this whole session that's been transcribed. And so instead of the doctor facing that computer screen, they're engaging with you, and this software is making sure there's a really good transcript.
One of the things that's exciting to me is how this is going to impact kids and their personal learning.
Yeah, the dream that you could have a tutor who's always available to you and understands how to motivate you, what your level of knowledge is. This software should give us that. When you're outside the classroom, that personal tutor is helping you out, encouraging you. And then your teacher, talks to the personal tutor and says, okay, what's your advice about how I do things in class the next day? They won't have to spend time grading homework. They'll immediately know how that went.
Does this mean you eventually don't have teachers and everybody just has their own AI teacher?
We're trying to help teachers, that personal engagement, motivating a kid, meeting them where they are. The AI in no way is a replacement for that. But the fact that as the teacher's saying, okay, what should you work on? It's working at your level, that personalized notion. And, we can see it's already working pretty well.
I talked to Sam Altman, and he was pretty direct about AI's impact on the workforce. A lot of jobs may go away. Do you agree? And how should we start preparing ourselves to navigate that?
Yeah, particularly as you get in this, not the 5 to 10 year time frame, but beyond that, where the AIs, not only are they very good at kind of white collar things, but also the robotics embodiment is taking a lot of blue collar type things, whether it's warehouse work or factory work or even, cleaning rooms, cooking, things like that.
And so that's not only just a threat to people's livelihoods, but, people gain dignity and a sense of purpose and meaning from work.
That's right. We've organized our society around the fact that if you, get a good education, if you get a unique set of skills, that you'll be rewarded for that. If we get 20 or 30% more productive, that's all to the good because there's so many unmet needs. But if you get, 300% more productive, in a way you'd say, well, that's only good because then we can make more stuff and we can have more leisure time. But the way that we organize it and maintain people's dignity will require a lot of engagement and, picking leaders who are attuned to taking that access and making sure we're all sharing fairly. People are not going to have to work as much in this.
Yeah, I've heard you speak of 3-day work weeks.
Yeah, in the long run, as we get past that 10 years, work won't be as important. And, that, I think is basically a good thing.
What are the jobs that you believe are going to be undisturbed? What skills are going to persist in this new world?
Yeah, that's very hard to make a prediction. I mean, there'll be aspects of creativity. There'll be aspects of appreciating people, social work, the teacher really engaging that student in the rich way. Even that, I can't guarantee that software won't eventually get good at that. But, for the next generation, the more human, the more engaged you are with other people, that is a skill set that is in such short supply, whether it's mental health or education, that we can never have enough of that.
I mean, I've expressed several of my concerns, but do you have none? Do you have no?
I have significant fears about the risks. This is the first technology that is happening faster than even the insiders expected.
It's happening faster than you guys thought.
Absolutely.
Do you think that your company, that Microsoft and other companies that are going to make a lot of money off of AI have an obligation to help us manage and navigate through this change?
Absolutely. The fact that there will have to be regulation, that the way we think about taxes will have to change quite a bit. If the companies are working with the government, then at least we can craft something that's not just profit-driven.
But what did we miss with the internet and social media that we can use to apply now to this moment of AI?
Well, I would say, speaking for myself personally, and I think many others, that we were a bit naive.
Yeah, so Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors.
We thought the internet, the availability of information, would make us all a lot more factual. The fact that people would seek out kind of a niche of misinformation, we were a bit naive. And bringing those lessons of, let's get ahead of this. Let's get the politicians to be users and have a dialogue about maximizing the benefits while minimizing the negatives.
To me, what it means to be human is to be, boy, that's a good question.
Humans, we have a soul. We went through different levels of life, from newborns, toddlers, children, teenagers.
Human in Arabic is insan, and it translates to two things. One is forgetfulness, and that's a quality that all of us share. And the second root word of it is uns, which is to be loved. Are we going to lose that aspect of humanity?
I think that as humans, there is nothing that brings us greater discomfort than lack of knowledge. And I think that AI, in many ways, comes out of that drive to know all the answers, to be in control.
As a religious person, one of the things that I reflect on is be careful about comfort, because too much comfort is actually going to make your life worse, not better, because it'll decrease your overall capacity.
What I do know is that I locate the divine in relationships between humans and the environment. To me, that's God and that's the divine, and that's something that technology can never stand in for and can never replace.
I am so delighted to be able to talk to Marilynne Robinson, one of America's greatest novelists, who writes of all the messiness and all the grace of being human. So what do you make of this moment that we're in and these two words, artificial intelligence?
Well, it's certainly a departure from any sense of intelligence we have had up to this point. The mulling, cumulative knowing and interpreting the world that has been called intelligence.
Because we've always thought of them as uniquely human traits.
Exactly. The impulse behind it seems to be to eliminate the human hand and the human eye in the making of the reality that we inhabit to the farthest extent possible. With the effect of concentrating power in the sense of the control of this strange fantasy within very few people's hands, and consolidating masses of capital and masses of natural resources devoted to this very dubious project. It's just a human impulse to escape from its humanity, which is something that happens over and over again historically. The impulse to say that there's nothing intrinsic about a human person that cannot, in theory, be replicated by something that, frankly, works cheaper, works faster. I don't know why it is, but it's part of our human lot to be uncomfortable with our humanity and to mechanize it, out of existence in some way. We're not enough in love with our own existence, and we're not enough in love with everyone else's existence. And I think that's very dangerous.
I think that's just so powerful. We're not enough in love with our own existence. But hasn't that been the nature of who we are as human beings? Always seeking the next, the more, the better, the other.
We generalize from the behavior of people who tend to dominate historical narrative and are very frightening people in many, many cases. Not the kind of people we would have wished to be making great decisions.
What is the thing that concerns you the most about AI?
I'm afraid that there will be so much investment of every kind into this project that it will have its consequences before it really deserves them. And so there will be all kinds of cutting back on all kinds of employment and so on, anticipating this insurgence of AI. And then it will turn out that it's a bad project, you know, that it's more dangerous than it is valuable and so on. And so we will have a disrupted economy on one hand and an unusable technology on the other.
But it's also going to, no question about it, it's going to make life a lot easier for a lot of people. So what's wrong with that?
American schools ask for a lot of written work from students, and that's a very good thing. That's an autonomy-creating exercise, you know? But what we don't do, we don't tell them that this is a discipline, like an athletic discipline, that they have undertaken to strengthen themselves, not just to bring themselves over some arbitrary line of sufficiency.
That it's the discipline of doing the work and the thinking process.
Exactly. And students say writing is difficult, which of course it is.
It is.
But difficulty is the point.
And so if you were in charge of this whole AI movement, what would you be doing, or what would you advise?
I would advise that it be used for, you know, the kind of research that produces drugs and immunizations and so on. I would make a fantastic library.
Of course you would.
I would use it very, very judiciously to replace work that is drudgery without the arrogance of replacing the work of people who, you know, who are of very great value, you know, just because they are the substance of our ordinary interactions with the world.
But you know, I also think about this as I'm growing older, and I think as you grow older, there's always the risk of trying to hold on to what was. And when we think about it, there are currently now children who are born and who will be born who will know nothing but this generation of AI. So there will be no looking back, no lamenting what used to be or the way it was. And that's always been the case. But I get the sense that you somehow feel that this moment is different than others in past generations. Why?
Well, you know, the thing that occurs to me to compare with it is the Manhattan Project that was carried on among very few people in deep secrecy. These things are talked about afterward as if they're collective decisions, but they're not. They're scientific thresholds that are crossed only by people who know exactly what they are doing with it as a consequence. And there's no going back from nuclear fission, but that doesn't mean we should put ourselves in the same kind of position again.
A special thank you to everyone who spoke with us tonight. I hope that they have left you with a clearer picture of what is coming. Artificial intelligence is still beyond our control and, to a great extent, our understanding, but it is here. We're going to be living with technology that can be our ally as well as our rival. It is something no other generation has ever experienced. This moment requires a different level of alertness, awareness about who we are and where we're going, what's real and what's not. What's artificial intelligence and what is human wisdom, authentic intelligence earned through study and experience. We are this planet's most adaptable creatures. We will adapt again, but keep your eyes on what's real. The stakes for all of us could not be higher.